Okay, folks, we are in the defense case in the trial against Karen Read, and there's really two huge questions. One we dealt with last week, which was Karen Read. Should she, will she, won't she testify? But there's another big question that is looming, because those of you who were part of and watched the first trial, the centerpiece of the defense was a prosecution witness, the lead investigator, Michael Proctor. He was a trooper back then. He worked for the DA's office back then. He was fired in part for what he did in the investigation of Karen Read. Well, he was not called by the prosecution this time. So the question is, will the defense call former trooper Michael Proctor to the stand as part of their case? It was the centerpiece of their defense first time around. Yes, the jury's heard his name a little bit, but he has not made his way inside the courtroom. The defense is allowed to call him. They can hit him with a subpoena, make him come into court, make him answer questions. But will they or won't they? That's what we're going to talk about during this video. We'll also talk a little bit about what has just happened today with the beginning of the defense case and the first defense expert. We'll break that down for you as well. I'm Vinnie Politan. If you can read, you can tell I am the lead anchor for Court TV. I've been on Court TV longer than anyone in the history of the network. Longer than Fred Graham, longer than Jack Ford. I beat them all. I got the longevity. Well, some of them got jobs that paid him more money, but that's another situation. But I've been there day in and day out for years and years and years. With us, of course, is Al Wunsch the third.
Hola, Tangenistas.
And the radio legend. We met at Court TV Radio, Jonesy.
We did indeed. And I can't tell you how many Court TV alumni are on my TV as I flip the channels around, whether it be network, cable news networks or major networks or the Today Show for that matter.
Or the Today Show. Yeah. I'm here longer, but they're making more money. This is the Tangent Podcast.
It's Vinnie and the Tangents, True Crime Podcast. Vinnie has the blue eyes, Al cracks the jokes. Jonesy stays behind his shades, entertaining all the folks. It's Vinnie and the Tangents, True Crime Podcast. Load up all your comments, hit those super chats. Let's go smash that like button, so we can all have a blast. Vinnie, Al, and Jonesy on the job. They're the Sugar Hill Gang of true crime. They're telling stories of days gone by. They take crime and turn into a good old time. It's Vinnie and the Tangents, True Crime Podcast.
All right, it's the soundtrack of Friday, Vinnie and the Tangents. Welcome to the program. Folks, it's great to have you here. Appreciate all your support. Today we're going to talk about, will the defense call Proctor? Now, as we are live here, if you're watching live, the audience I know is splintered all over the place watching some testimony right here, right now that is occurring. It's the cross-examination of the expert who testified, the first witness for the defense. You can sum up that testimony very quickly, and we will do that during this program. But first, I want to talk about Trooper Proctor, and I'm interested in some initial thoughts here, because there is some level of danger, Al, isn't there? When you are a criminal defense attorney and you call the lead investigator, who obviously does not like your client, obviously wants your client convicted, and in this case may very well blame your client for him losing his job.
Well, you've got a scenario here where sort of the big three of the first trial didn't testify on behalf of the prosecution in this trial. And by that, I mean, Higgins and Albert and Proctor, oh my. Okay, so you've got that big three there. And the question is, strategically, are they needed? I think they are. I mean, I think if you're going to try to throw some shade on the prosecution case and come up with your conspiracy theory, you're going to need to have these people looked at and analyzed by the jury in order to be able to go forward with that conspiracy theory. Now, you're right about the Proctor situation, because Proctor, okay, he did some stupid things. He got fired as a result of that and some other things that he's done. But I didn't think he was a bad witness in the first trial. He did come across that his investigation was done, and what he came up with, and it's been even testified in this trial that he didn't deviate from what would have been the standard way of handling an investigation under these circumstances. But you may end up making him likable, and unless the defense can get him to be a hostile witness, and we'll discuss that a little bit later, you run the risk of letting him, speak on open-ended questions, which could be very damning for the defense.
I mean, right now, the jury's heard some of his text messages.
Yes.
They've heard his name, but this is what I'm going by. It's like in the first trial, Jonesy, you'll remember, we were talking about Trooper Proctor. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened. We were talking about Albert. We were talking about Higgins. This trial, during the prosecution, we're talking about timelines. We're talking about phone data, text stream data from the Lexus. I mean, it's like experts and technical stuff versus like meat and potatoes people. And it's such a difference, Jonesy. And I wonder if the defense wants to kind of change the discussion and change the focus here, because you can point at someone, but if he doesn't come in the courtroom, how real is this guy?
Well, it's certainly a gamble, if you will, to put Proctor up on the stand. From a layman's perspective, I mean, you have the legal background, although I purport to have some knowledge of that just from osmosis of working at Court TV. From a layman's perspective, and from that of a fan of Court TV, it's so salacious. How can you not put him up there? How much damage he's going to do, that's for the lawyers to decide, for you gentlemen.
But that's the problem, is that you've got to, if you can't get him out of the box as a hostile witness. Now, a hostile witness means that if the
wait, is he saying it right, Jonesy? I don't think he's saying it right.
Hostile witness?
Yeah. Your Honor, I'd like this witness declared as a hostile witness. That's how you do it.
That essentially means you can lead the witness, right?
I didn't know the Jeffersons were attorneys. Okay, I mean, so
I'm sure there's an episode. It ran 11 seasons or something.
But unless you can get him knocked down as a hostile witness, where you can ask leading questions, where you can go after him under those things, they're stuck asking open-ended questions. And the problem is that he may be cooperative and not be designated hostile, and then you've got a problem from the defense side.
Hostile doesn't mean he just doesn't like you or he's for the other side. It means he's not answering questions, and he's
not answering questions. He's giving evasive answers and everything else. And you're not going to be able to get up there and just go, well, obviously he doesn't like her. Look at the text messages. I want him to be hostile. Yeah. That's not going to happen.
From your experience, what is the bar with this judge as far as like how easy it would be to for him to be declared a hostile witness?
You got to watch him. I mean, it's really not. It's her call, but it's his, meandering, or is his being difficult on the stand. That's the thing you have to kind of gear.
I think what happens is the judge losing their patience with the witness.
That happens.
Like if you frustrate the process, and now all of a sudden you're not answering a question, and the same question has to be asked over and over and over again, and it's obvious, like to everyone in the courtroom, that he's not cooperating by not answering simple questions or straightforward questions. I think the judge would pull the trigger on it if she felt like it was interrupting. And and it was obvious to everyone. It's not going to be subtle. It's got to be over the top obvious. And then I think she would be compelled, because, and you have to understand that a judge, while you may believe they are, helping one side over the other or see the case a certain way, their top concern is always the jury. It's always the jury, not wasting the jury's time, making sure the jury's not getting frustrated, because the judge wants the jury to return a verdict.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, the judge wants a verdict because the judge wants to clear this off her calendar. And that's how judges get evaluated sometimes. It's like, how many cases do you have on your docket? Are you clearing cases? And you try to clear them through plea deals, et cetera, and settlements in the civil world. But at the end of the day, you want a trial. You don't want it done 3 times. No way. That'd be crazy. That's crazy, doing a trial 3 times. So that's what the judge doesn't want. I think they may be going to lunch. I see the camera going up to the fan. So maybe we can get more folks coming in here.
Our biggest fan.
Yeah.
Well, judges get to the point where it's basically what we like to call the jerk off threshold. So if you've got that situation where they're coming up with this, what do you mean by it? What do you mean by that? What do you, where they're playing.
Was the off necessary? Was the off really necessary?
Yes.
Hey, Jonesy, when you add the off to the end of that phrase.
Okay, so you're asking the wrong guy. I have been known as the guy on WFMU when giving the legal ID. There are various cities. I say WFMU, New Jersey, and for all the jerk offs in New York City, 91.9 FM. I become known as that. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to be the DJ. Instead of saying you're the greatest people in the world and this is the greatest city in the world, I wanted to have people look at the radio and say, did he just call me a jerk off? So you're asking the wrong guy.
Right. But it elevates the language.
Yes.
That's not so bad.
Well, it emphasizes, like, there's, to me, I know, Vinny, you don't curse, but to me, there is reason to use the F word sometimes. It emphasizes something.
Yeah, it does emphasize it to a certain. And by the way, thank you, Gringa. Tangent podcast. Podcast. The podcast. Interesting.
Thank you. Las Tangenistas, Gringa.
And thank you to Ann Williams, who says, hi, Albert, with a wink and a heart emoji.
Ooh.
All right.
Wow, Ann and Albert sitting in a tree.
Kissing.
First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes Ann with a baby carriage.
Ooh.
Indeed. Okay.
But you get that factor, and then the judge does it, and then it's a different ball game, because once you're able to start asking leading questions and going after someone, then you've got control of the witness. Right now, when Proctor's up there, if Proctor's being cooperative, if Proctor's answering the questions, if Proctor's doing what he's supposed to do, and I have to imagine he was on the list for the prosecution. You don't put people on a list as a witness without having some time speaking with those witnesses and talking to them.
Can the prosecution still prep him even if he's called as a defense?
He was on the list as a prosecution witness, so I'm sure they've had meetings with him.
Are you saying, prep him before he gets called?
Well,
here's the thing with this case.
Not to be hostile.
Right. Anyone's allowed to talk to, a witness can talk to anyone they want. However, in this case with the gag, I don't know how that's going to work, but generally you prep a witness before they take the stand. And it's a question that the attorneys can ask.
Well, you prep it. And then here's the answer that I tell everyone to say. Did you meet with Mr. Wunsch prior to the sitting here today? Yes, I did. And did he go over your testimony? Yes, he did. And did he tell you what to say? Yes, he did. Oh, really? What did he say? He told me to say the truth. And then you go right.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That gets him.
And that gets it right there. You just watch the jury just go, and then your adversary is now pissed. Okay, so and that's just it. You just always come up with, they told me to say the truth.
Exactly. By the way, Tracy Todd Hunter. Oh yes, New York is the greatest city in the world.
Ooh.
I think that's in response to your statement, Jones.
Ron Lundy used to.
Obviously, never did the Fort Lee, New Jersey.
By the way, speaking of New York, I just recently was in New York, which is which is going to bring us, and I'm going to do it early in the broadcast,
Nice.
to a brand new segment on our program.
Oh, good.
It's a
Will they call Proctor? Oh
no.
Okay.
Here's the brand new segment.
Break out the projector, break out the photo album, gather round everyone, it's Tangent Home Movies, Tangent Home Movies, Vinnie Allen Jonesy's Tangent Home Movies.
All right.
Little Gene
Brand new
Disney there.
segment.
I like that.
Yeah.
Tangent Home Movies, and I mentioned
Cochran.
I was just in New York over the holiday weekend, the Memorial Day weekend, and here's one of the places I stopped, which is in the Bronx. The Bronx's version of Little Italy, Arthur Avenue, the Belmont section. If you saw A Bronx Tale, this is the section of New York, one of the sections that I visited in my trip. And I went to a place called Frankie's Restaurant. Frankie's, great Italian spot. And guess why I went to Frankie's Restaurant, ladies and gentlemen, as I show you home movies? It's because Al Wunsch made a reservation and told me to come on by. So there's Al and I on the streets of New York City in the Bronx, Little Italy, as we take a look at some Tangent Home Movies here.
You know, I was very excited on my way to Shea on Sunday when I passed under Arthur Avenue, which is where you were on Saturday. And I was very excited. And I was saying to Gina, wow, Arthur Avenue, that's where Al and Vinnie was yesterday.
Yeah. And I was excited. I was very excited to see Al, but I was much more excited when my chicken parm came out.
Yes.
Where's the side dish?
Yeah. You don't need a side dish for that.
That was a salad.
I had a salad. But yeah, this is the chicken parm, but it's like a chicken vodka parm. So it was with a little bit of a twist, and it was delicious. And this is the reason I went to Arthur Avenue. It was to see Al, of course, but it was, I don't know if it was more about Al or the chicken parm. What do you think, Al?
Well, it's almost identical.
Now, for those of you, as I show some more of these home movies, for those of you not familiar with Arthur Avenue, and by the way, I think we have another photo here to show. Al was gracious enough, as he always is, anytime you meet Al or bump into Al or spend some time with Al, he always brings you a gift, and you brought me the Art Shamsky autographed books, which was amazing. And Art Shamsky was a legendary Met, but was he a New Yorker before he was a Met?
No. He was from the Midwest. His first team was Cincinnati. He was traded to the Mets from Cincinnati, and he roomed with Pete Rose and everything else. So so they came up at the same time, and from the standpoint from your Atlanta standpoint, if it wasn't for his performance in the playoffs, against Atlanta, they never would have made it to the World Series. He's the guy that basically propelled them through the playoffs against Atlanta in 1969.
Back in 69. So as we continue watching some of these Tangent Home movies, what we've got next, again, we're in Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, and I think I know what's coming up next. Yeah. So we went to one of the meat markets, so you can see what they sell there. Here's some beautiful fresh rabbits. Jonesy, have you ever had rabbit?
Oh, Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, $8.99 a pound for the rabbits.
Rabbit
That's
season.
price. That's a good price for rabbit.
Duck season. Rabbit season.
Shoot him now!
Shoot him
You're
later.
despicable.
So if you go to New York and you want to go to the real Little Italy, this is the real Little Italy where the real Italians will go. If you go to the Little Italy in Manhattan, it's decorated. It's much more tourist friendly. But if you want to see the way real Italian Americans live day to day, you go there, and there's like 15 meat markets right next to each other. And you'll find things like the fresh rabbits, or you'll find this. Do you know what this is, Jonesy?
Fish heads.
No, it's not a fish.
Good old fashioned.
I'm going to freeze the frame here so the folks at home can guess.
Oh no!
What the heck is that?
Like a bird head of some sort.
Well, what a bird? It's not a bird. It's not a plane.
Oh. Well, I've
What
run
is
out of
it?
options.
Has anyone seen the? It's Capozelli. They call it
Capozelli.
Capozelli. It was in the movie Anona's on Netflix. It's a lamb's head.
Oh, okay.
Bah.
Now watch this. It's all hanging from the roof of the store.
The world famous sausage chandelier.
That's the sausage chandelier. The whole store is nothing but sausage hanging. You go in there, it's like stepping inside of a sock. It's like poof. I was in.
And it's right next to Frankie's, so it's like it's ideal.
Yeah. You see, made my hair stand up. Look at that. Unbelievable. And the final home movie here from Citi Field. Here we are, folks, at the Mets game all together.
Right before they
what a
threw us
night.
out of the stadium.
Yeah, there you go.
They did throw us out of the stadium. We were the last to leave.
Yeah,
We were. They kicked us out. They kicked us out.
And Vinnie, you told the usher that we thought it was a doubleheader.
Yeah. And then I tried to give him $10 on the way out. He wouldn't take it.
Really?
He would not take
He
it. He
didn't
said,
do it the right way.
I can't take your money. I can't take your money. I just want to, if everyone gives him a couple bucks, then he has a good night.
Yeah. Well,
give him $100, but if everyone else chipped in.
But they used to wipe down your seat for you and stuff.
Yeah, it
like
used to
that.
be a tradition.
Yeah, it was just a tradition. I mean, he was very nice. He was keeping order. But yeah, they're the boys. A rare moment where we are together in person, not via the World Wide Web. So here we go.
Celebrating a Met win, by the way, also.
And that'll do it for this edition of. I love this song. All right, let's get back to business here.
I want to bring up about the about Little Italy. Okay, the Mott Street and Mulberry Street over there
In Manhattan.
in Manhattan,
versus
which is
Bronx,
surrounded by Chinatown. But there is a very, very interesting monument there to Joseph Petraino, who is the only New York police officer that was red-rummed in the line of duty in a foreign country. He, in the early 1900s, was the police officer that was assigned to trying to break the Cosa Nostra and the Black Hand, and he was remarkable. And he was going to Sicily on an undercover mission, and someone tipped them off, and he was assassinated when he landed in Sicily. And so there was a monument to him and a mini little museum dedicated to him in that Little Italy area. So there's something to see.
Very nice. Rhino Girl, Proctor. Thank you, Rhino Girl. Proctor, the evidence doctor.
Ooh.
Because the allegation is that Proctor is the one responsible for the tail light being planted. And
that's why, so his whole thing about the bias and the manipulation of evidence, okay, was not, is really key to their conspiracy theory.
Right. Because, there has to be some explanation for the tail light getting there. Can you make that explanation? Jonesy, would you buy that explanation without seeing the man in court who's being accused of doing it?
I guess it depends on how well it's presented to me, but it certainly would hammer home the point if I could see the gentleman on the stand and hear what he had to say, especially if it plays favorably towards that.
Well,
Gen X loving the Tangent Home movies. Gen X, of course, part of our wonderful mod squad.
Yay.
Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in this chat. The mod squad is on the job, helping us to keep it clean. The mod squad is on the job, always so nice and never mean.
All right, big thanks to Gen X, Frankie Figs, Jennifer Sube, Ashley Bouchard, our great mod squad doing the job. And by the way, Jay Press talking about CrimeCon 2025. We'll be there, folks. So this will be an opportunity. You want to meet Al. You want to meet the legend Jonesy. You want to take a picture, whatever. We're going to be there whether we're invited or not, right? That's
Well,
basically where we
That's how
are.
we go everywhere, whether we're invited or not.
We're going to be there no matter what. So they
right.
can't stop us.
Like Manny, Mo, and Jack.
Yeah. Oh,
The
Vice
Pep Boys.
thought all that stuff was gross. The lamb's head.
You know, it wasn't as gross as when we used to walk around Little Italy when I lived in Manhattan for fun, and then we would go into Chinatown, which was like, right next to it. And in Chinatown, they would have like, I don't know if they were ducks or what kind of birds they were, hanging in the window with their
Ducks.
their heads on and their eyes being cooked, and they would just hang there in the window like dead, dying, and cooking. And it was disgusting and fun at the same time.
Peking duck. You can't go wrong with that.
Okay.
Here's an interesting question from Martin Smallwood, who's watching on YouTube. Will they find Mr. Proctor? He is not a trooper, Vinny. So he's not a trooper anymore. He was a trooper at the time of this investigation. So, for him to be compelled to testify, he needs to be formally subpoenaed. So the question is, have they served him with a subpoena? I don't know. I don't know if they have. And I don't know the procedure in Massachusetts for service, right? Does it have to be in-person service? Can it be via mail? How does that exactly work? Can you serve people ahead of time without an exact time and date, with a window of time? Do you have to subpoena them to a specific date? Different. And what I found in covering cases around the country is that different jurisdictions have different standards and rules for that. So I'm not sure. Al, how do you handle that when you want to witness and you don't know what day they're going to be testifying?
Well, we always serve it as on call, and then we give them at least an hour or 2 hours notice. Now, if it's somebody who
when you say on call for a specific day or a window of days,
on call for the duration.
For the duration, but I know this is very rare, but this is like a 2-3 month trial.
Well, that's
Can someone really be on call for 3 months? It's kind of outrageous, I would think.
It's not necessarily the best way of doing it, but there's no other way to get to gauge it. I mean, unfortunately, now I will say this: if he was coming from another state or he was traveling there, he doesn't live locally, they will then sometimes allow us to take them out of turn. Okay, so maybe the defense would have been able to put him on during the state's case, okay, because they were not going to be able to sure that they could have gotten him later on because he doesn't live in the area or whatever the situation is. So we do accommodate witnesses more often than not. You see that more with regards to experts than, say, lay witnesses. But you're on call, and it's not a great situation, but there's no other way of doing it. The only other alternative, and you'll see this with police officers. Now, he's no longer a trooper, so he's not getting paid to be there. Okay.
Right.
The police officers that I subpoena will sit in the courthouse for the entire time because they're getting paid, okay, to just hang out. And you'll see them, that they can't be in the courtroom, okay, but they usually have a place to stay because the prosecutor's office or whatever will make accommodations for them, and they hang out there, and it's cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So that is the way things work with regards to your paid witnesses.
Absolutely.
Thank you, April Diaz. Have a great day today. Thank you, April Diaz. We appreciate everything you say. We all know she's a great fan, and we know the kind words she has. We always love to hear from you. Thank you, April Diaz.
All right, thank you to April Diaz, who's joining us. And this is an interesting comment here. April Diaz says that Dolly Vision said Vinnie is big in person.
Well, you had 2 feet on me in that photograph that you showed.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, you were like, and you had a foot on Al.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I am taller than both of you. Not combined, but I'm taller than both of you.
Yeah, well, that's how we usually try to meet you when I got Jonesy on my shoulders.
That's always how Al and I travel, with an extra long raincoat.
Yes,
That's how do you think we got into the game?
that's right.
Which is
Because
one
you only
ticket.
gave us that one ticket. So,
But April, yeah, I'm the tallest of the three, and I do believe, and I know I am the tallest anchor on Court TV, and
ooh,
have been through my entire career. How about that?
that's true. They were all pretty short, as I recall.
I can think of one that was taller.
Who?
Terry.
I didn't work with Terry. Was gone already. He
was
got
gone?
fired. He went to ABC. He got fired and went to ABC.
Did he? I have a great Terry story. I don't know if I should tell it, but okay, I'll tell it.
And you say Terry, you mean Terry Moran, who was one of the OGs
Yes.
of Court TV, although he's not a lawyer.
Yeah, one day I was calling Terry, and the camera was on outside the courthouse. I think it was the Menendez, and he and his producer were throwing a football around, on the lawn of the courthouse, and I could hear the cell phone ringing. They didn't know they were still on camera because the camera was there to feed when they were live, and they ignored my phone call because he didn't want to do any radio Q&As. So, and I watched him do this. That's my Terry story.
Terry Moran. Yeah, but he was not there when I was at Court TV. So I'm talking about during my time at Court TV, no one has been taller.
So now going back to the Proctor situation with regards to the manipulation of evidence and everything else, what I think was done very well by the state, and I know I'm going to get grief for that, or the Commonwealth, is that the experts made everything seem plausible. So it's going to be very hard to talk about a manipulation of evidence when your experts have said, no, this makes perfect sense. No, this lines up right. No, this does show this. So, it was a very, very creative way of bypassing Proctor and maybe taking some wind out of the sails of this manipulation and bias.
Right. Well, they shifted the focus. They've completely shifted the focus of the case from the investigators to the experts.
Yeah.
They've turned this Red Rum case into experts and digital evidence. Now, so today's witness, the first witness for the defense, I'm going to play a clip of the most important part of his testimony because he is going after the timeline. So there's this thing called a triggering event, which is when the SUV is thrown into reverse and it accelerates at a relatively rapid pace in reverse, which then creates a trigger event on the Toyota tech stream, which is how a Lexus records certain events, certain data. So there's a timeline for when that happens. There's also a timeline for the last time that there's any activity on John O'Keefe's phone, mainly locking the phone, right? To lock the phone, you got to hit the little button that my thumb is on, right? So that's how you lock your phone. I just locked my phone. So John O'Keefe's phone was locked at a specific time. The triggering event, which is totally connected to the allegation of the SUV backing over John O'Keefe, is tied to a time. So the expert for the defense is trying to take the time of Karen Reed putting her car in reverse and allegedly, according to prosecutors, striking John O'Keefe and placing that happening before John O'Keefe locks his phone, to make the argument that she didn't back over him because she couldn't back over him and then him lock his phone afterwards. So I'm going to play how the conclusions of this expert are trying to make that point. But let me ask you, Jonesy, did that make any sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, because I want it to make sense to everyone watching. Two events: the backing up of the vehicle, which is just prior to John O'Keefe, according to prosecutors, being struck. The second event is the locking of the phone. So it's important for the defense for the locking of the phone to happen after John O'Keefe is allegedly struck.
I love the idea
For
that
prosecutors for it to happen before.
I love the idea how I'm the gauge for the common man.
You are.
Glenn, did that make sense to you? Because if you understand it, then Mr. and Mrs. Front Porch will.
Exactly. Because I've been spewing this stuff for days now, like for days. So like it makes sense in my head, but I got to make sure it's making sense coming out of my mouth. Otherwise, I'm not doing my job. So let me play that piece of testimony, because this is really the significance of the first witness for the defense.
All of the Aperture reports collectively, then we can draw some pretty straightforward conclusions. 25 of those 30 possibilities result in interaction with the O'Keefe phone after the end of event 1162-2. Looking at all the possibilities, 2 of the 30 result in interaction where it's simultaneous. That's the zeros, they're present in both tables. And then looking at all 30, 3 of the 30 result in interaction with the phone before the end of event 1162-2.
Okay. This is huge. This is huge. I'm gonna explain this. So what this defense expert is saying is that 25 of the 30 possible interpretations of the data result in John O'Keefe locking his phone after prosecutors say he's been struck by Karen Reed. 2 out of 30, it happens at the same time. He is struck and he is locking his phone. 3 of the 30 result in him locking the phone first and then being struck. And they were trying to get to the conclusion that just in 10% of the possibilities, could it be the way prosecutors are saying it was?
How many moves to lock your phone? Is it just one move?
It's just press the button.
Huh.
You press the lone button on the side of your iPhone.
Right.
On one side, you have 3 buttons. On the other side, you have 1 button. You hit 1 button, you lock it. So they're trying to, and this is coming down to, and Robert Alessi's been saying it, literally seconds. And we're talking about seconds here, whether it's 3 seconds this way or 4 seconds that way or 10 seconds this way, 10 seconds that way. The defense wants the jury to believe makes all the difference here. What are your thoughts about this? Is this powerful? Is this reasonable doubt? What is this?
It is obviously powerful from the standpoint of it is now assessing something that would destroy the timeline of the prosecution. And if that timeline goes down, then does their case go down? Yeah, probably. So it is big, but like anything else, we're going to see what ends up happening when the Commonwealth comes back with rebuttal.
Yeah. Well, I think where Brennan is going on the cross-examination on this issue is that, and this is getting really in the weeds, the event happens, right? The trigger happens like this, and then the text stream will go back in time, kind of like the body cams do, go back in time and give you like 5 seconds before whatever triggered the recording and
Right.
5 seconds after the trigger of the recording. And I believe what they're going to argue is that just because it stops recording doesn't mean the activity of the SUV has stopped, that the SUV is continuing to go back. But this would, I believe, force the jury to believe that the SUV is backing up like 10 seconds.
That's a lot
to
of
fall
time.
within the window.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
That's 10 seconds at 24 miles an hour. Someone's going to do the math right now. But like you're going a lot further than the number of feet. They would have been like on the front lawn or close to the front door or, down the street or striking the car and the Jeep that may have been in the road.
Well,
behind Karen
it would
Reed.
be 1/6 of 2.6 miles, right? So,
Oh my God.
That's pretty significant.
Momentary loss of muscular coordination.
Well, no, it's easy math because if it were a full minute, never mind. Maybe I'm wrong.
Per second.
And we've got a random note here from Rose Broccoli Richie. It says Bonnie, but oftentimes when you type Vinnie, the autocorrect ends up being Bonnie. I don't know why that happens, but I get a lot of Bonnie messages. So much love and admiration from me in Rhode Island. You are so handsome. I just love watching you. Thank you, Rose. Rose watching on Facebook today.
Well, she doesn't say.
How do you automatically assume that that's Bonnie means you?
Right.
Well, I mean, Jonesy is known as a bon vivant.
Autocorrect.
He's a Bonnie bon vivant. Okay.
That's an autocorrect. Like sometimes you type Vinnie.
Isn't that convenient?
It turns into Bon. I can't tell you how many Bonnies I get.
So 25 out of 30.
A lot of Bonnie messages.
Well, it also always spells if it does get your name right and it doesn't understand my Jersey accent when I speak into the phone, it also spells your name with a Y.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. And it could be also mistyping. The B, if you'll notice in Exhibit A, can you see it? You can't see it. You can't see it. On a typewriter, the B is right next to the V and the I is right next to the O. So if you're just a little bit right of the V, you hit a B. If you're just to the right of the I, you hit an O. So it's either autocorrect or a mistyping. But I get a lot of Bonnies.
I'm guessing autocorrect.
I get a lot of Bonnies. I'm just telling you, I get a lot of Bonnies.
Well, I'm guessing they're all autocorrect.
Yeah, but if you type like Vonnie, it'll probably correct to Bonnie. Right? So that's what happens. So,
I get some really crazy autocorrects. I'll tell you that, man.
Oh, autocorrect drives me nuts. All right. And Deborah today, sorry I'm late. Love you guys. As long as you have a note, Deborah, you're allowed to be late.
Yes, tardiness is permitted as long as there is a valid excuse.
A note from Epstein's mother.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's see who else we have checking in here. A lot of great conversations happening. I'm telling you. Oh, here we go. Rich Buddy, Jonesy, that's not autocorrect, that's predictive speech.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. But it also in line with what Rich Buddy, as opposed to Buddy Rich, is saying. It also has a problem, I think, with my Jersey accent.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, it might. Hey, so speaking of Buddy Rich, is he the greatest drummer of all time?
I love Buddy Rich. I've actually had an opportunity to play with Buddy Rich. Okay. And
really?
He is absolutely positively was a phenomenal drummer. Gene Krupa is also an absolutely phenomenal drummer. If you're going to start looking, Roger Taylor Queen is an incredible drummer.
What about Karen Carpenter?
Karen Carpenter was the most incredible singer I've ever heard.
Sheila E.
Then you have
Sheila E.
You take a look at who? What?
Sheila E.
No, Sheila E's not up on my thing. Because first of all, she plays a stand-up drum. She doesn't play a regular drum kit. All right, she plays a stand-up drum. She doesn't play a drum kit. All right, drum kit drummer.
She's an all-time.
Let's face it. You take a look at Keith Moon. I saw Keith Moon live. I've never seen a drummer that played the way he did. But Buddy Rich was just so incredible. And
he was a jazz guy, right? He was a jazz guy. He did jazz and rock and roll.
Yeah, he did jazz, mostly jazz. And I got to play with him and Bucky Pizzarelli, and on another drum kit, Charlie Callis, believe it or not.
Nice.
It was an incredible night at the Iridium.
Charlie Callis can make the drum sounds with his mouth. Why would he?
Yeah, but Charlie was a very Charlie started as a drummer.
He was like the fat boy.
And that's where he was a drummer, played at a number of clubs with the Dorsey Band and all that kind of stuff, and then moved to the front as a comedian.
Who's the drummer with one arm? He was a drummer, then he lost
Def Leppard. Def Leppard.
Def Leppard?
Amazing.
Yeah. In
Amazing.
fact, it was funny that they had when they brought him back after his accident. They had another drummer with him. He was playing better than the drummer with two hands. Okay,
Crazy.
with two arms. And so they got rid of the other drummer and they kept him exclusively.
All
And
right.
then sadly, he was beaten up. He was mugged outside one of their gigs not too long ago and was beaten pretty badly.
I saw that. I've been Alessi-nated, of course, referencing Robert Alessi. A vehicle did not hit Officer John O'Keefe. His injuries do not equal a vehicle pedestrian hit. Karen Reed is innocent. Is this ultimately what the defense is going to be about, that they can't prove the injuries?
You know what? I mean, we don't know yet. Okay. I mean, because the conspiracy thing is so evident with regards to what Karen Reed says when she leaves the courthouse and things along those lines. I'm not sure where they're going yet, and we will see that. Okay, and then we'll have a better idea. This is only witness one, but to me, you've got to have a scenario where you're going to have to make. You don't necessarily have to, put yourself into a corner with only one or the other. You can do both and show that there's doubt on both sides. So it could go both ways.
And Debbie does have an excuse from CT.
Oh, good. Excellent. Then
What's
you know what?
CT
Then
stand
you are
for?
permitted.
What does CT stand for?
What? CT?
CT.
Connecticut.
I know it's Connecticut.
I was thinking she meant
Stamford, Connecticut, where you went to college. Remember?
Watch it, Al. I went to Leland Stanford Junior University in Palo Alto.
where you ran a pizzeria.
That's right, on Saturday nights. Rich Buddy said Dave Weckl. Is that a great drummer?
Dave Weckle's a very good drummer, but I did not nowhere near Buddy Rich or Gene Krupa or Keith Moon for that.
Interesting.
And then
why is it 11:00?
Alex Van Halen is a great drummer too. Alex Van Halen is an incredible drummer to me. And when I finally got a chance to meet him and talk to him, his drums are so oversized. I don't know how he can possibly play them as mean and as violently as he does. It's incredible. Just an incredible drummer. So,
and by the way, the CT was Court TV.
Oh, I heard of that. I've heard of that.
Correct.
If he was watching Court
Hey,
TV.
weren't you you're the longest running anchor in Court TV history?
No,
On-air personality, yes.
He's the tallest.
And I'm also the tallest.
And the tallest.
And the
Okay.
tallest. But yeah, CT, I get it. C technically is Court TV. I always do CTV whenever I
always do
I
that
do as
too.
well. I do as
but,
well.
but actually Debbie's more correct because it's courtroom television.
And
that's
sometimes
just
that gets confusing because I do CTV as well. But isn't there something like Canadian TV or something? There's something else.
Yeah.
That was CTV for a while. Maybe country.
Yes.
And then Russia used to be CCCM.
CCCM.
Oh, Cara B. Foster.
What?
Now, this is an interesting wording of the question, and I'm glad that you wrote this, Cara. I'm not on a side, and because I think this trial is different, right? There are people who are on sides, right?
Right.
There are some who are just. The closest I could be to being on a side is what do I believe the evidence proved, right?
I think maybe that's what Cara means.
But I think that's what she means. But I think, but what I wanted to point out, which is why I'm so glad that she sent this note, this comment, is that in this trial, people have picked sides, and they cannot be convinced by any evidence from the other side, so they can never move. And I would say those are people who have picked a side, right? Those are people who are on a side, whereas I will say what I believe the evidence proved or didn't prove. In the first trial, and I said it during the first trial, I did not think that the defense came close to proving any sort of a conspiracy, but I also didn't believe that the prosecution proved that John O'Keefe was struck by a car. And to me, the battle of the experts was won last time by the defense. Was absolutely won because their expert wasn't that level of expert, wasn't that kind of expert. Now they've brought in those types of experts.
Right.
So now it's a true battle. Last time it was one-sided, but the jury discounted all of the experts last time. So that's another story for another time. But so I will, and as we're going along, I'll say what evidence I find compelling, what I don't find compelling. I will say this, and I say it all the time. At the end of every trial, for me, the most surprising ending is always not guilty.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because every trial we cover has been brought by the prosecution. They're the ones who chose to have this trial. The defense does not choose to have a case. It's the prosecution. And I know prosecutors don't like to lose. And I know prosecutors don't like to bring cases that they don't believe that they can win.
And they've got the deck stacked,
especially this high profile. So that's why every case we cover on Court TV, the most surprising result is always not guilty, because this is a complete miscalculation by prosecutors of the strength of their case, that they did not win.
Well, that goes along with, like, you know, they talk about presumption of innocence and all that. But doesn't the public really, isn't it a presumption of guilt once you're charged?
Absolutely.
Like, even I'm guilty of that. Like, if somebody's charged, I'm like, oh, wow, man, looks like he's going away.
Well, you know, I mean, as history has shown us with regards to these types of cases, the prosecution has the deck stacked in their favor. I mean, it's just the way the system works. It's their, you're 100% right on this, Vinny. It's their game to lose. Okay. So, you know, you've got a situation where the law always works towards the defense, to the prosecution. The evidence, everything down the line is always set. The table is set by the prosecution. So, you know, history does show that a not guilty is certainly extraordinary, and it's not the ordinary way these trials come out.
To me, that's always the most shocking verdict, regardless of the way the evidence has gone in. There are cases where I look at it like, they really didn't prove this. I don't think they proved this, and I'm still like, oh, not guilty. Yeah. And then there was a streak like 2 years ago where we had, like, in 1 year on Court TV, we had, like, I think 7 not guilty verdicts.
Yeah, they were like all from Florida and one from Wisconsin.
It was unprecedented. It was unreal. And I'm like, wow, are we in a new place? And
were they from jury nullification, or was it mostly that they couldn't prove the case?
Well, you can't say jury nullification.
There was some self-defense. There were some cases where you didn't know exactly what happened. They didn't have the proof. But there were several self-defense cases, and to me, those are the most likely not guilties of all the cases we cover at Court TV, because there's no argument about did the person do it, did they not do it. It's about, well, what happened? Like, why did this happen? What did the victim provoke this situation? And I think those are the ones where you'll be most likely to see it. And it may have been a situation where we had a series of self-defense cases, but then we had some others that were like, the evidence is not overwhelming. It's not overwhelming. But I'm never surprised when they say guilty. I'm just not.
So I think I mentioned the word history, Vin. Don't you usually hit something whenever I say that word?
I tried to. Let me try again.
Well, then,
so as history has taught us, Vin.
Hit it.
Wait, I have to do something else. I think we have a situation here.
Take 3.
Well, we all have to do something.
Right? I'll try it again.
As history has taught us, Vin.
The Civil War to civil rights and all the revolution fights, World War I and World War II, I'll always know who is who. let's listen to his story.
All right, May 30th. Okay, we're going to do first the Revolutionary War thing, because as we know, it's the 250th anniversary of our fight for independence and freedom. And in 1778, the brutal realities of frontier war were realized in the Battle of Cobleskill, New York. British troops, loyalists, and Iroquois Native Americans targeted a small settlement in Cobleskill. The houses were burned. Rebel forces suffered 22 KIA, 8 wounded, 5 captured. 5 of the 22 were burned to death, and everybody that had been recovered was badly mutilated, and that happened in 1778. In history, on this day in 1922, the Lincoln Memorial was dedicated by Chief Justice William Howard Taft, who was also the only president who went from being president to being Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Is that a promotion?
Well, yes, it is, because it's a lifetime position.
It's a lifetime position. I think you get benefits.
Of course you get benefits. You get the same benefits as a president, probably.
But apparently you can overrule the president.
You can, absolutely. And it has happened numerous times. And actually, they gave him that position so he wouldn't run for president again.
Should they be more powerful than the president since they're not elected?
Well, we have three branches of government. Okay. We have 3 branches of government, and that's why we have our checks and balances.
When was the last time you wrote a check, Jonesy?
Actually, I'm trying to find my checkbook right now so I could pay you for the balance for the Mets ticket. I have.
Can I pay you Wednesday for a
78 checks left.
Sunday?
And thank you to Deborah for loving my history lessons. I appreciate that. 1922 also, by the way, Warren G. Harding, who was the president, made the first broadcast of a president's voice on radio, addressing the crowd at the dedication of the Lincoln Memorial. Okay, so now we're going to go over to true crime on May 30th.
Did it sound like this, Al? Did the president sound like this?
Yowza.
Winchester Cathedral.
So we're going to start in 1431, okay, on our true crime. Joan of Arc, found guilty in a trial for heresy, was burned at the stake for being a heretic. She was 19 years of age. She had been given the opportunity to say that she would follow the church, and she said it, and then she said that she had been visited by certain saints that told her to follow God, not the church, and they executed her by burning her on the stake. And today is her feast day for St. Joan of Arc.
How do you know she's a witch?
That's exactly right. She turned me into a new
like this.
1808, future president of the United States, Andrew Jackson, Red Rum's technically, Charles Dickinson in a duel. Okay. Andrew Jackson was hit first in the chest. He misfired, which should have ended the duel, but he cocked the pistol again, shot him, and Mr. Dickinson was no more. He was not prosecuted for this, and people said that Andrew Jackson had participated in close to 100 duels, all dealing with the fact that his wife was being ridiculed in the newspapers as being a bigamist because he married her before she had been officially divorced by her first husband.
Oh, a sassy divorcee. Hey,
Absolutely.
by the way, Nico Diaz. Thank you, Nico. Thank you, Nico Diaz. Thank you, Nico Diaz. History question for you. Imagine how many people would have died in the Civil War if Ulysses Grant and General Lee had not been West Point graduates.
I don't even understand what that means, quite kindly, because I mean there were so many generals that fought in the Civil War that all graduated from West Point. Class of 1846, for instance, they had a number of generals that were from there that fought for the Confederacy or fought for the Union. There was 600,000 casualties in the Civil War. So I don't know how you could say that there would have been more than that if they were not West Point grads. But they'll go on that. turning back to our history day.
Wait. Frankie Figs correctly answered the question. How do you know she's a witch? She floats.
That's right. What else floats? A duck. So if she weighs the same amount of weight as a duck, then she is a witch.
Yes.
And little rocks, yes, that was one of the answers that they had given. 1943, Auschwitz gets a new doctor, Joseph Mengele, the Angel of Death, starts his residency at Auschwitz concentration camp. 1989, Margaret Ray pleads guilty to breaking into David Letterman's house.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh, that didn't work out very well for her.
No, it did not.
She stepped in front of a train and kneeled down, if I'm not mistaken, as it was incoming.
But that was a horrendous thing for David Letterman. And it was at the height of his fame in 1989.
Yeah, no wonder he dresses like a slob now and grew that ridiculous beard.
And finally, in 2024, Donald Trump becomes the first former president convicted of crimes for falsifying business records in connection with hush money paid to Stormy Daniels. So that is our true crime history, our Revolutionary War history, and our day in history.
And Trisha Foster, did they ever measure how many footsteps from the curb to the house? What about all the text messages she sent? No one noticed his cell phone light up. The footsteps from the curb to the house, I don't know how many footsteps it was. It was because they were on a little bit of an angle. I think it was measured around 65 feet or so, which is arguably 30 steps or so. So
Well,
I think
whose feet? Yours or mine? Mine.
Well, that's the other thing too.
well, he's taller than you two and a little bit taller than I am.
But I am a notoriously slow walker.
Yeah, and he was walking through a snowstorm. So I don't know. Do you take longer steps or strides in the snow or shorter steps in the snow?
Shorter. I do.
Slightly shorter.
don't
But
wanna
clearly
fall.
it was enough steps that were recorded in his Apple Health to get inside the house. Thank you, Trisha. That's Trish. And who else do we have? Let's see. Oh, question for Al from Martin Smallwood. Which scenario matches John's sleeve of his hoodie? Dog bite or exploding tail light?
Experts telling me the tail light. And so I'm waiting to hear the expert to tell me it was a dog bite, and then I'll go from there.
Well, you heard the expert in the first trial said it was a dog bite.
I know it was, but the expert in the second trial is telling me it was the light. And I mean, that's why this case is set up the way it is, and that's why the prosecution put it in the way they did. So you have that there that the cuts were conducive to that being from a broken tail light. And I'm going to wait till the dog lady comes on and tells me that that's wacky and this is Rin Tin Tin.
Is that a sausage from Arthur Avenue?
So this image is probably, I would say, the most important image in the case, because this is the one. There has to be an explanation, and the jury's got to buy it, one way or the other. You know, they did the experiment at 2 miles per hour, where the man with the blue paint, the expert for the prosecution, had set himself up, and then it backs up, and he kind of leans in and rolls off of the SUV, and he ends up with blue paint impacting the part of the rear tail light. Now, do you consider that real science, Al? Do you think that should have been admissible? Do you think
it's demonstrative evidence? It is based on theory that is accepted science. So, I mean, should it come in? Yeah, but it's up to the jury as to what weight they give it.
Right.
And then you go from there.
What if now we don't know what the defense is going to do, but the big part of cross-examination was you're just going 2 miles an hour, like you weren't going 24 miles an hour in reverse. You think there's a chance that the defense expert went 24 miles an hour in reverse and is going to show this jury something else?
I doubt that. Okay. I doubt that that's going to be the situation. But, once again, they made look, once every expert is The weight's given by the jury. The jury's going to take a look and they're going to say, I found him credible. I didn't find him credible.
Okay.
The demonstration, and Vin, you couldn't get them to lend you that SUV after they were done with it for the purposes of your demonstrative evidence you were doing?
No, we've been trying to track down an LX 570 for the longest time.
I saw you had a plea on the social media for.
Yeah, I threw it up there. Got a lot of snarky responses, obviously, which was entertaining. I enjoyed.
Most of them were from me, but
But I
that's
got-
besides the point.
I got a couple nibbles off of it. We have one lead we're following now. We have a second lead that we may be able to get to, but it may be too late in the case. But this is interesting. And someone just put this up. This is Cordelia. If John's wearing a long sleeve shirt, how does hair get on the car? Well, I think there's two things going on here that I want to address. I think Cordelia Noel brings up a great point watching on YouTube, which is John O'Keefe's hair, they say, was found on the SUV. Now, it could be his, it could be his mother's hair, it could be his niece's hair.
Maybe he had hairy knuckles.
Right, but it looks like a hair from a head. But if you look at the demo that they did to get the arm matched up, the head does not come in contact with the car. So how does that hair get on there? Like, it seems like the prosecution has multiple scenarios going at once that don't work at the same time. Like,
the hair could be on your
arm does not work at the same time that the hair on the bumper works. It just doesn't work. The glass that was found on the bumper, that was not the glass that was in John O'Keefe's hand, but there was another piece of that glass in the road. Like, how did that glass get on his bumper? There's a few different things going on here that don't line up precisely. And if I was prosecutor, I would not. I would feel obligated to figure out and explain it to the jury because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't line up. So what are your thoughts about the hair on the back of the SUV, but in the demo, John's head is nowhere near there? Like, the
That
whole
doesn't mean that his
head
hair,
is falling.
that doesn't mean he didn't have a hair on his arm or anything like that. You pull your hair back, you get hair on you, and and maybe it was on his sleeve or something along those lines. I don't think that.
Then it would have been on the tail light.
Well, but what I'm saying is that I don't think it's that. You have hairs on your body all the time that could fly off. I mean, it's not. It's certainly, that's not to me as big of a deal as the fact that when I've seen the dog bite things that look more conducive to that than that. I mean, there's a lot of questions here, but the hair thing is bizarre, but it's plausible it could come from any other situation.
All right, we've got a couple of things we got to get through, then we're going to be out of time. Norman Corey, thank you so much. If 1162 was at 34 Fairview and she drove at 5 a.m., 1163 and the ride to Dayton was 1164 and the tow driver was 1165 and 1166, makes sense to me how Trooper Paul was 1164. The car was started 4 times before the test. Okay, this looks and sounds very confusing.
Yeah, I'm confused.
But I believe, and I think this may very well be a big part of the defense case, is that the certain events that are recorded on this tech stream data, I believe the defense will challenge what they actually are. And if they challenge what they are, it completely changes the timeline of event 1162, 1163, 1164, 1165, and 1166, because there were some tests done by Trooper Paul, or Trooper Paul started the car 4 times before a test. So if we look at all of that, I think what we're going to see in this defense case is another attempted, and we'll see if the jury buys it, shifting of the timeline. So this timeline, which was shifted by the prosecution experts, will be further shifted by the defense. And as confusing as that post was, I believe it may be that confusing for the jury at the end of the defense case, because there's going to be a lot of data from a lot of experts that is conflicting. April Diaz with X's and O's to my 3 favorite guys and all my favorite chatters. Have a great weekend. And as always, we thank you, April Diaz. We thank you, April Diaz.
I'll take 2 X's and 1 O.
Yes. Yes, indeed. All right. So before we run out of time here, Al, where can folks find Al Wunsch III?
I will be on with Vinnie on Monday night, 8 to 9 on the closing arguments. And then you get me at Legal Weapon 3 on X. And as I've said numerous times, and as you guys see on YouTube, I will talk, take your questions. I will respond. And when you say terrible things about me, I reply. So
replies. How about that?
And so
where can folks find the radio legend?
I'll be at the 7-Eleven. I have to get the papers. Get the papers.
Okay. By the way, folks, if you like this hoodie, or if you like some of these other great items we have, like a Tangent podcast shirt, or one of our fancy mugs that displays the tangents when you put
our celebrity and our tangenistas.
Yeah, you can check out the Vinnie Originale True Crime merch. Norman Corey, it's not confusing, it's basic math. Oh, I get it, Norman. I get it exactly. What I'm saying is going to be confusing is that the jury is going to hear different interpretations of the same data by experts. So for them, it becomes very confusing. I get it. Thank you, Norman. Appreciate it. And by the way, folks, all these great items are available.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. I've got something for your body. For your body. You can wear it by yourself or with Frankie Valli. It's true crime merch from Vinnie Originale. It's true crime merch. It's true crime merch. It's true crime merch from Vinnie Originale. From Vinnie Originale.
All right. A word from our sponsor. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so that's our own shop that we have here on the channel. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the super chats. Thanks for the great comments. Don't forget, you can watch me on television every night on Court TV from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., 8 to 9, closing arguments with Vinnie Politan, 9 to 10, Vinnie Politan investigates. For the duration of the Karen Read trial, it's 2 hours of Karen Read. First hour, all the big news of the day, live reports from the courthouse. Second hour, we dive into the evidence and we take our investigation to the next level. So that's all happening there.
Hasta la vista, Las Tangenistas.
Say goodnight, Jonesy.
Good night, Jonesy.
True Crime Podcast. We'll see all of you in court. Somebody say tangent. Tangent. Somebody say podcast. Podcast. Tangent, tangent. Podcast, podcast. This is the Tangent Podcast. Good night, everyone. Good night. Thank you for all your support. We are the Tangent True Crime Podcast. We'll see all of you in